Hi, my name is Luca and share a bit of my story and how it intertwines and links with the topic of this year's festival of the Center for Conscious Design, the Conscious Cities Festival. And the topic is the person-space continuum. Up to a couple of years ago, I used to have a rewarding job in the knowledge economy and a rented flat. I knew that there were other ways of spending my time, and I had pondered about the idea of taking a sabbatical for some time, and it was coming closer and closer to the decision point. I remember consuming some material about it and people that were taking sabbaticals every few years, and in particular this guy sharing that all of the ideas that he would develop in the 7 years to come were incepted, had their seed in that 1 year off. I also remember coming across this beautiful study on happiness, about how we're monitoring people over courses of generations and mapping their lives and trying to understand what was a common thread in their satisfaction, happiness, or well-being in their lives. And they figure that a good indicator for it is the quality of your relationships. And that got me thinking a lot about how the quality of my relationships would be very relevant for how satisfied or content I'd be in my life. And I remember laying in my bed in my rented flat, and I remember observing a wall that was separating me from my flatmate, and then observing the ceiling separating me from my neighbor. And these two very similar objects, two barriers, were very similar among themselves, but their orientation, one vertical, one horizontal, was dramatically changing the type of relationship that I would have with these two people. One close and one that I would hardly ever see, but we were sleeping every night at almost the same distance from each other. And it really got me thinking. Your happiness is linked to the quality of your relationships. Then I entered from a personal path this journey that many of us at the Center for Conscious Design are going through, or that have experienced, of how space impacts human behavior, the way we make decisions, and ultimately the way we bond with each other. And well, then how can space make it easier or harder to build and maintain those relationships? So as I had this opportunity to take time off from work, I was saying, why not spending time in places that are designed and engineered for me to build quality relationships and interactions with others. So I started Googling community and communal life, and I discovered a few of the classifications, from traditional communities to intentional communities and eco-villages, and different networks where these communities would share their models and how they work and how they interact with each other inside this community. And I decided to start the travel. So I had my van and I started visiting some of these communities, asking questions such as, living this type of lifestyle and living in an environment that nudges you, that induces you towards a certain behavior of sharing, how does it make you feel? Most of the people I was talking to were saying that it takes a lot of effort, much more than in a regular flat or in a regular urban life, to share with others and to live constantly, day by day, year over year, this communal life, but the rewards are immense. I started to recognize the fact that I was taught by society and by others to optimize my life around comfort and privacy, and that ultimately that would bring me happiness. And my lived experience was telling me that it was not the case, that a minimum amount of comfort and privacy are needed, but above a certain level there's no need of it. Actually, it becomes toxic and counterproductive to your own health. It was a powerful experience to spend time in intentional communities, mainly rural environments with 20 to 30 people volunteering and living in these environments, often based on permaculture principles and sharing day-to-day life and collaborating around a shared project. That was the inception of a desire to live in a different way for me. And then I came across the opportunity of traveling on sailing boats, hitchhiking on sailing boats in particular. So being crew on other people's boats that do long-term journeys around the world and hop on for a certain leg, for a certain part of the trip, sometimes share the costs, sometimes stay for free, sometimes even be paid. And that's what I've been doing for the last couple of years. And what I've learned there was that the adventurous lifestyle and the type of input that living on sailing boats was providing me was also a needed ingredient in my life. Still, each boat is a universe, and I was fascinated about the fact that sailing boats provide an environment in which people would live that is by design offering a shared purpose. Many communities do struggle in finding this shared mission, and on boats that comes out of the box. It's just already there. So all the small talk and all of the slow process of getting to know each other was cut short on these experiences on sailing boats, because you quickly have to learn how to talk to each other, how to communicate, and how to collaborate around the topic of navigation and sailing. Each person would have a much smaller space than we're used to in regular urban life. So this would also have people bump into each other and relate to each other and build quicker relationships. And then I came to this conclusion that I was really fascinated about the container of sailing boats as an environment where to thrive, but I was missing that domain of communal life. And then I came across a boat, it's called Infinity, and I am on her right now. That is communal life on a sailing boat. It is a 36-meter sailing vessel. It is a ketch. It is made of ferro cement from the 1970s and has been sailing around the seas for the last 20 years. It is a very extravagant and multicultural environment full of people from very different walks of life. Now we are 23 people on board, from 6 years old to 60 years old, very well distributed in these age groups. It is built as a community. All of us share tasks on board. We all do cooking and chores and maintenance and repairs, and we are engaged in navigation and in taking care of the ship. This boat is a place that invites people to come and bring themselves on board. We have been practicing morning Kundalini yoga every day. We do circles of words in order to solve conflict. We've had multiple opportunities to make music and dance. It is an environment that brings together what I've experienced in land-based rural eco-villages and communities on a sailing boat. And in my eyes, this is an amazing experimental ground for observing and reasoning and testing out ideas on what does it mean to live together with a shared purpose and a shared mission. The fact that a boat is a non-democratic environment and that it respects the laws of the sea. There is a captain and there is a hierarchy on boards, and there is a certain way of communicating, creates an unusual structure to what we're used to in urban lives. The challenging of it is a wonderful starting point, because once you begin to challenge one aspect of it, then you can challenge many more. Additionally, the fact that every sailing boat has a name, I find this symbol very powerful, because it creates a feeling of belonging to something from day one. When you're saying, I am on Infinity, the boat, the name of this ship, you suddenly express a feeling of belonging, and that's something that often doesn't happen in houses, for example. But let's be honest, living in a tiny space with many other people, with one kitchen and one toilet, comes with its own struggles. But the feeling of belonging, the feeling of participation that this type of experiences provide me, make me realize that there is something missing. There are some ingredients missing in the way in which large-scale urban developments are done. All I'm doing is observing how is this environment with this distribution of things in space and social norms making me feel, and how is it impacting my ability to bond with others and my ability to make decisions. And I find these experiments that I'm going through a wonderful practice that we should all try out. It brings back the flavor of neighborhoods and of communal life and of shared space among participants. And I have none of the answers, but I love to be part with all of you guys at the Center for Conscious Design in shaping parts of what a different future could look like.